Morning. Hey guys, this is Torte de Lini. Gonna try out a new series of just casual talks, unedited and raw. Today we're gonna talk about why did this item, Pavise, have to change? Very simple. I think we know about Solar Crest. You guys know about Pavise. You know about it during 7.23, and now if it's returned into the fold at 7.35. Yeah, I mean, in the end, when it came to Pavise and when it kind of first came out, it was, I guess the word is not ideal, right? I mean, let's take a look at what it was like when it first kind of revealed itself, so to speak. When Pavise first came out in 7.33, and I don't know if you remember this, Pavise in 7.33 was the New Frontiers patch, so really, really big patch. When Pavise first came out, it required a Void Stone, which gives you mana regen, Ring of Protection, Fluffy Hat, and the recipes. And the total cost is 1400, as you can see. It gave 3 armor, 2.5 mana regen, 175 health, and it gave a barrier, which lets you absorb 300 physical damage for a duration of 8 seconds, cooldown of 18 seconds, and the mana cost of 75. So a little bit marginal in terms of cost for an early game item. The 2.5 mana regen is okay. The 3 armor and 175 health is really nice. It made use into one of the newer items of Fluffy Hat, but more importantly, it gave a lot of early game value for players across the board, especially early game players. I think my stance regarding the Pavise when it first came out was, we saw it on a lot of supports like Crystal Maiden, Undying, and Lich, and it kind of helped them kind of just, I wouldn't say dive in, but it gave offensiveness value for carries to kind of go harder into the laning stage, right? Like, let's say a Phantom Assassin throws a dagger, Crystal Maiden helps set up an initiation onto an offlaner, then the Phantom Assassin can then jump in with the Pavise, giving her a little bit more survivability. Or if you're playing more of a harassing Undying, or you're a Lich, or even a Vengeful Spirit, you can walk up to someone, throw on the Pavise, and then do your damage and harassment. They would have a choice: either fight someone who had a significantly more resistance to damage, or eventually run away and take that harassment up the butt. So my view for Pavise initially was that it looked like a really interesting item. It really looked like it would give more empowerment to supports to either enable carries or offlaners to do more, or for themselves to then go hard, right? Maybe like a Dream Protector with Pavise could just, start wailing away and then walk away, knowing that, he had the barrier to help mitigate some of the damage he would take against offensive offlaners. But I mean, eventually what happened was that item kind of just fell off. And the reason why it kind of fell off was that it competed with other necessary items for supports that were, I would say, more of a priority in terms of buying in their timeliness than Pavise, right? At the time, Pavise didn't really build into anything. Pavise just kind of stopped where it was at. So it competed with items like, like an Arcane Boots would be obviously a very obvious first suggestion, or Urn of Shadows, or Medallion, or Solar Crest, which had, I mean, maybe not Solar Crest, but Medallion, which had more offensive capabilities or more enabling value that allowed you to build into more stuff. So it made a transition by saving you cost to build into those mid-game items like the Solar Crest, or like Spirit Vessel, or like, let's say, disassembling Arcane Boots to make Aether Lens, or to make Greaves. So the issue with, I think, Pavise was not only did it stop exactly where it was at, it's like building Vlads, right? If you build Vlads, it just stops there. And you have to basically have a value of where you get it, both in its timeliness as well as its inherent value, to both stretch for the full slot that it will take, rather than, let's say, building an Arcane Boots that not only gives you a lot of inherent value to apply depending on what you want to do, start harassing, start ganking, start giving mana for your support for your team, or maybe you want to start farming up with a plethora of abilities that cost mana, which you now have a mana cost saving item for. And then with Pavise, it was kind of just a defensive item where most players were building offensive items in the early game, right? We saw like Nature's Prophet come into play. We saw like a Clinks come into play, where they would build, I think, Medallion either before or even after boots of speed, and they would just go ham with that. They would do everything with it, right? They would allow them to farm. It would allow them to pull camps with just using medallion. You could just pull it from afar. It allowed you to harass very easily, and most cores didn't have that much armor initially at the beginning of the laning stage. So playing against a medallion and 2 harassing offlaner and the pos 4 with a medallion made it very difficult, especially if they were ranged heroes like Nature's Prophet, who gained damage when he used teleport, or Klings, who did additional damage when he threw out the tar bomb on you. And so with Pavise, it just got squished between other items that were far more valuable, that built into far better items, and that provided similar value for what they were achieving, right? Medallion gave armor reduction with the Blightstone. This is before it got removed. Spoiler alert for those who haven't played 7.35. It gave armor, and it gave an offensive capability, or it could be used defensively as well. That could be applied onto enemies. Arcane Boots we talked about already. Even Glimmer was kind of something that you would build into, that would go into the mid game, and it would just kind of be applicable to a variety of heroes into the mid game, or even yourself if you had an ability that required you not to take damage, which is kind of the essence of Pavise. Pavise is to kind of help you avoid taking damage so that you can follow through on what you want to do. And then Glimmer Cape was also in that way similar. I kind of went on a tangent there. In any point, basically what was wrong with Pavise is that the map expanded. It led to more fights, or eventually more farming. As we know, 7.34 was all about just AFK farming. So items like Solar Crest, as I talked about before, had more applicable value, whether to farm or to fight, whereas Pavise kind of just had none, right? It gave you a little bit more mana regen. It gave you a little bit more shield, so you wouldn't take as much damage against creeps, whatever. There's more than one way to skin a cat regarding avoiding taking damage or even regenerating from that damage. And it didn't build anything. That was kind of the big crux. It didn't build into anything. Now with patch 7.35, and let's talk about that there. Now with patch 7.35, we can see there was kind of a lot of value into the Pavise. The new Pavise involved what? It had a recipe change. It still cost relatively the same, but it had a recipe change. It now required energy booster, which is straight up mana. If you don't remember, it's the blue ball that used to build with Arcane Boots. It had Ring of Protection, still the armor that we love. Fluffy Hat, a little bit of health that we love. And the recipe changed, a little bit lower, 175 gold recipe. And that's to help make it proportionally the same in terms of total cost, which is 1,400. So the big challenge for Pavise now is affording that big energy booster, which is no different than when you were trying to build Arcane Boots, where you build Boots of Speed and then you kind of had to hunker down and avoid taking damage, or stack camps, or hopefully get a kill in the lane stage to eventually afford that big energy booster. It no longer provides 2.5 mana regen, and it gives 250 mana. So not bad, I think, overall. Pretty much the same, but the circumstances are kind of different, right? The circumstances for Pavise in the new 7.35, which is like 8 months later, or 10 months later from 7.33, is that the circumstances for Pavise is that it no longer competes with other people. It's no longer a competing choice. It's more of an alternative path when it comes to that itemization, and I'll talk about it in a second. But yeah, secondly, regarding Pavise, is that it now builds into Solar Crest, right? Did we show that already? Yep, right here, builds into Solar Crest. Really nice build into it. It gives, you gotta pick up attributes for Crown. You need the Windlace, you need the recipe of Solar Crest. And I'm gonna make a separate video regarding Solar Crest, because it's a whole different discussion. Thirdly, with the other changes in that patch for 7.35 and obviously 7.35b, Pavise became, as I said, an alternative path rather than a competing choice. And I'm referring to the new Arcane Boots that can no longer, 1, be disassembled, and 2, requires a Ring of Bazi rather than an energy booster, which is what Pavise now requires. And I guess you can kind of see what I'm getting at. For a lot of supports, you were either building Arcane Boots a good amount of time, otherwise it was Tranquil Boots. And usually with Tranquil Boots, you needed something to help bolster your mana pool or mana regen to ferry you over to that mid game where you would get your next big item, whatever item that would be, to give you some mana regen. So now that arcane boots can't really be disassembled in patch 7.35 and require the Ring of Bazi, those who don't really want to commit to arcane boots can opt for tranquil boots or build Pavise for the next big mana item and then do tranquil boots while having kind of the early game mana problems more or less resolved. Obviously, a bigger mana pool means you have more regen, means you have a larger pool during the laning stage, which is a shorter period of the game now, to do a variety of harassing abilities, plus that enabling offensiveness that we talked about before. So Pavise now being an alternative choice for those who don't want arcane boots but wish they can get the mana value from that item. I'm trying to avoid talking about arcane boots because I want to make a separate video about it. The change for arcane boots, I will say in a nutshell, is basically arcane boots not only became a black hole, I call it a black hole item, where it's an item that kind of sucks in everybody's desire to get it because it can open up into a variety of different items, right? Energy booster can build into 6 to 7 different items back in the day. Now it can't be built into anything except Guardian Greaves. That's the short form summary of what I'll say about arcane boots. But the appeal for Pavise is, one, it can be built into new items such as Solar Crest. It provides an alternative choice for those who want the other offensiveness of Tranquil Boots, right? Tranquil Boots allows you to initiate onto someone with a ranged stun, like as a Vengeful Spirit. Vengeful Spirit generally won't build arcane boots. Some people build it sometimes. Generally, Vengeful Spirit will want to build Tranquil Boots for two purposes. One, you can get into position and throw out a quick stun, or you can swap positions and then throw out the stun, and it just allows you to catch up to a lot of heroes because your movement speed is a lot faster. But now with the Pavise, you're not so mana hungry while building such a rather cheap version of an item, a version of a boots with Tranquil Boots. So it's really, as I said before, an alternative path for those who need mana, as opposed to those who were always going to go arcane boots, or were thinking about arcane boots because they were thinking, I'm going to use my spells a lot, I'm going to need that big mana jump, right? And Pavise is also a decent substitute for what it replaced, which is the removal of Medallion in 7.35. Medallion was also a weaker version of what Pavise is doing, which is also giving a little bit of that mana regen, right? It required Soapy Mask, I think, for Medallion of Courage. And so heroes like Clinks, as I talked before, Nature's Prophet, who use their abilities seldomly or decently. Tar Bomb a lot for Clinks, and for Nature's Prophet, it's like Sprout and every once in a while Teleport. So this Medallion gave a lot of value in terms of offensiveness and a little bit of mana regen to allow you to be that offensive. Now Pavise is kind of a little bit more that direction, but more, how do I say it, more channeled into one specific way, which is give yourself a little bit of a barrier survivability to enable you to feel more comfortable being offensive while giving you the mana pool to spam all your abilities a little more concretely in the lane and throughout. So heroes like who builds Solar Crest now? There are, I think, a few heroes that still build into Solar Crest now. More specifically, heroes like Venomancer. Venomancer enjoys the movement speed from Solar Crest. Obviously enjoys Pavise, can be applied to whatever support or core hero he wants to use it on. Vengeful Spirit is also, as I said before, a very popular hero. Likes to build Solar Crest. As you can see here, there's some people who are building arcane boots. I'm not actually sure if that's justified or not. Nonetheless, it is a very interesting item, and with arcane boots you can build more, you can use more stuns, you can use more of your armor reduction with Screaming Pain, etc. And then Crystal Maiden is also another big hero that likes to use Pavise and Solar Crest. The thought process regarding that is revolving around your ultimate ability. Your ultimate ability, you have to be right in the middle of the fight. You obviously have a lot of armor, but you also want to reduce, maybe let's say, magic damage you might be taking, or more importantly, you want to deter enemies from targeting you. So you can jump in, or you can walk in with your Tranquil Boots and Solar Crest, which gives you movement speed, walk into a fight, or even Force Staff, as we see, walk into a fight, pop the ultimate with your Solar Crest on you, and go to town. Or of course, Solar Crest I'm trying not to talk too much about it because I'm thinking about doing a separate video on it, is Solar Crest. You can use it as an offensive ability for your allies, like a Slardar or a Morphling or a Sansa or Invoker or Anti-Mage, I don't know. Heroes that obviously take advantage of that additional attack speed with Solar Crest and Pavise. And then lastly, Gyrocopter. If you guys have played Gyrocopter anytime in the past 2 years, Gyrocopter really relies on Rocket Barrage, at least initially until he gets the Shard. Really relies on the ability of Rocket Barrage to get up closer to the enemy and just go wailing on them hard and kind of force them to either run away or to fight. With the Pavise and Tranquil Boots, you can be right into the fight, pop your Rocket Barrage, pop the Pavise on you, coat you in nice beautiful armor, let them do as much damage as they want to you, as your Rocket Barrage does way more damage to them, and then you can bail out knowing that you didn't take that much damage and you harass like a mother effer. Or you can use a Solar Crest on an ally, as I said before, Lifestealer, Magnus, a Morphling, Abaddon, anyone. Really loves a good Solar Crest value. And then you can just stay in the back and take advantage of your positioning with the extra move speed of Solar Crest and Tranquil Boots to play around. So, in summary, what will we talk about with Pavise? I guess in summary, Pavise had to change because it completely competed with too many popular items at the time that played more to the style of the player base, but also because Pavise didn't provide enough value on its own leading up to the mid game without having a build up into something better. Even now, Pavise really only works because it builds into Solar Crest, which fits for a few heroes that I named, like Venomancer, Vengeful Spirit, Crystal Maiden, Gyrocopter, support, and probably a few more. I don't think we're seeing that much Pavise Solar Crest usage as we did before. I think even Nature's Prophet builds a little bit Solar Crest, but I think even Nature's Prophet has shifted away into moving to Spirit Vessel, which capitalizes on his ganking style. And I don't even think Clinkz bothers with Pavise and Solar Crest, because he was all about that offensiveness, right? So I think now he builds into Phylactery, which we'll talk about another time. So that's Pavise and Solar Crest in a nutshell. Yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and hope to see you guys next week. I'm testing this style out on a separate channel to see if you guys enjoy this kind of stuff, and more importantly, if you feel more informed about Dota 2. So thanks for watching. Catch you later.